I buried my husband at 11 o'clock that morning. By 3 in the afternoon, I was standing in my sister's backyard, trying to smile while people sang happy birthday to my 1-year-old nephew. Then my nephew reached toward me, grabbed the silver chain around my neck, and yanked out a tiny key that had been hidden beneath my dress for years. The entire party went silent. My father-in-law turned white. He whispered, "Where did you get that key?" I looked down at it, confused. My husband gave it to me. His face collapsed. Oh, no. That was the moment I realized my husband's biggest secret had survived him. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 34 years old, and just hours earlier, I had buried the man I thought I knew better than anyone. My husband, Michael, died in a highway accident on his way home from a business trip. The police called me just after midnight. By sunrise, my world had shattered. Michael and I had been married for 9 years. We weren't rich. We weren't famous. But we were happy. Or at least, I believed we were. He remembered every anniversary. Made pancakes every Sunday. Left little notes in my lunch bag that simply said, "Love you." He was the kind of husband people envied. That's why none of what happened afterward made any sense. The funeral passed in a blur. Flowers. Black clothes. Hugs I barely felt. People kept saying, "He's in a better place." I wanted to scream. The only place I wanted him was home. After the service, I planned to lock my front door and disappear from the world for a week. Then my younger sister, Emily, called. "You don't have to come," she said gently. "It's Oliver's first birthday." I looked at the clock. My nephew had been born exactly 1 year earlier. Michael had adored that little boy. He had spent weeks building him a handmade rocking horse. I stared at the gift sitting in my car. Michael had insisted we keep it hidden until Oliver turned 1. Suddenly, staying home felt wrong. So I went. Everyone looked uncomfortable when I arrived. No one knew whether to hug me or leave me alone. Emily quietly squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you came." "So am I." For the first hour, everything felt almost normal. Children laughed. Music played softly. People talked about anything except death. Then Oliver crawled into my lap. He smiled at me with those huge blue eyes and reached for the necklace I always wore. The silver chain snapped. A tiny brass key fell into my hand. Michael had given it to me on our 5th anniversary. "Wear it every day," he'd said. "If anything ever happens to me, don't lose it." I had laughed. "What does it open?" "You'll know someday." I thought he was being romantic. Now he was gone. And everyone was staring at the key. Especially Michael's father. Harold slowly stood. His voice trembled. "Claire." "Yes?" "Did Michael ever tell you about the storage unit?" I blinked. "What storage unit?" Harold looked devastated. "He never told you." I felt my heart racing. "Told me what?" He closed his eyes. When Michael was 25, he rented a private storage unit. What was inside? "I don't know." "You've never seen it?" He shook his head. He told me only one person would ever have the key. He looked directly at me. "You." The birthday party no longer mattered. That evening, Harold and I drove together to the storage facility. The manager confirmed the key fit one of the oldest units. He rolled up the metal door. Inside wasn't money. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't hidden treasure. It was shelves. Filled with labeled boxes. Every single box had my name on it. I couldn't breathe. The first box contained photographs. Thousands of them. Pictures Michael had secretly printed over the years. Vacations. Ordinary breakfasts. Me sleeping on the couch. Our first apartment. Everyday moments I barely remembered. The second box contained handwritten journals. Every notebook began the same way. For Claire, if I can't tell her myself. My hand shook. Then I found the third box. Medical records. My stomach dropped. Michael had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition almost 4 years earlier. 4 years. I couldn't understand. Why would he hide something so important? Harold looked just as shocked. I swear. I never knew. Neither did I. Then came the first twist. One journal explained everything. Michael had learned that his condition could remain stable for years, or become fatal without warning. He refused to tell me because my mother had died from the same condition. He believed I'd spend every day terrified. He wrote, "I'd rather carry the fear alone than make Claire live inside it with me." I burst into tears. I wanted to be angry. Instead, I only felt grief. But that wasn't the biggest secret. Near the back of the unit sat one final locked cabinet. The same key opened it. Inside was a thick envelope. Across the front, in Michael's handwriting, were 6 words. "Open only after my funeral." I carefully unfolded the letter. Halfway through reading it, I stopped breathing. Michael had been investigating financial fraud inside the construction company where he worked. Millions of dollars had disappeared over several years. He had quietly gathered evidence. He believed someone inside management would eventually blame him. If that happened, everything needed to be somewhere safe. The cabinet also contained flash drives, contracts, emails, and handwritten notes. I stared at Harold. Did anyone know about this? He slowly shook his head. No. Then everything changed. The next morning, I received a phone call from Michael's former boss. Claire. His voice sounded strangely cheerful. "I'd like to stop by and collect any company documents Michael may have taken home." My blood ran cold. He shouldn't have known anything existed. I calmly answered, "I don't think he brought anything home." After hanging up, I immediately called the attorney whose business card Michael had placed inside the envelope. Apparently, Michael had already arranged everything. If he died unexpectedly, the evidence was to be handed directly to federal investigators. Not the company. Within days, investigators contacted me. The flash drives contained years of financial records. Enough to launch a criminal investigation. Then came the second twist. Michael had never been the target. He had been the whistleblower. Investigators later told me they believed someone had been watching him. His fatal highway accident showed no evidence of foul play. It truly had been an accident. But his death almost allowed the fraud to disappear forever. Instead, the evidence survived him. Months later, several executives were arrested for embezzlement and fraud. Michael's name was officially cleared from every internal suspicion. The company publicly acknowledged that his documentation had helped uncover the scheme. At the memorial ceremony held by his co-workers, they called him courageous. I wished they had known him the way I did. Not just as an honest employee, but as the man who danced with me barefoot in the kitchen. Who burned pancakes every Sunday. Who still held my hand during scary movies. Who somehow loved taking pictures of ordinary moments because he believed ordinary moments became priceless later. Nearly a year after his funeral, Oliver celebrated his 2nd birthday. Emily invited everyone back to the same backyard. This time I smiled without pretending. Before the cake, Harold quietly handed me another small box. Inside was a new silver necklace. The tiny brass key hung from it. "I think Michael would have wanted you to keep wearing it." I smiled through tears. "I think so too. I still wear that key every day. Not because it opens a storage unit anymore, but because it reminds me of something much more important. The people we love sometimes leave behind more than memories. They leave behind unfinished promises, hidden acts of kindness, quiet courage we never noticed while they were alive." I walked into my nephew's birthday party believing the hardest part of my life was already behind me. Instead, a 1-year-old child accidentally uncovered the final chapter of my husband's story. And because of that tiny key, the truth he protected with his life was finally brought into the light. Sometimes love isn't measured by the secrets someone keeps. It's measured by the reasons they kept them, and by the strength they leave behind for the person who has to finish the story.